Welcome to this episode of The Common Sense Skeptic, a breakdown of the 10/10 event that Tesla held to unveil their robotaxi/cybercab, creatively named We Robot. This video is going to be a little different than the other YouTube reaction videos of the event, which pretty much unanimously and accurately identified this presentation as hot garbage. We're going to go a couple levels deeper and not only give our assessment of these unveiled vehicles, but also dig further into how they might factor into other Musk vaporware projects from past years. On the day, hours prior to this event, we suggested that if people wanted to prepare for the Robotaxi unveil, they should rewatch the Solar City solar tile unveil as a historical example of the fraud that Musk is known to orchestrate against his own fans. That presentation in October of 2016 had Musk deliberately misleading his shareholders by presenting products that did not exist to sway them into voting for the Tesla takeover of the company, thereby saving the financial asses of Musk and his cousins Peter and Lyndon Rive, who had driven the company into billions of dollars in debt. Many people don't know this, but Solar City never produced a single dime in profit, making it one of the biggest scams that Musk had perpetrated against his followers up until that point in time. And we knew this presentation would be of a similar stripe, but we had no idea how bad it would actually be. After the conclusion of this event, it appeared that shareholders were no longer the gullible fools that they have been in the past, because rather than seeing a noticeable post-event jump in the stock price, we watched the shares shave $60 billion off the market cap of the company the morning after, and essentially flatline for the week that followed, hovering around the mid-teens. Until October 23rd, when the new fuckery began. Starting with a suspect after-hours earning call that we plan on covering from the 23rd of October that shot stock up $47 a share, peaking at $269.19 before backsliding. And then, of course, on November 5th, the U.S. federal election resulted in yet another change of administration. Tesla stock soared again for several trading sessions, topping out at $350 per share, despite the president-elect's campaign promise to end EV mandates, EV tax breaks, and the regulatory green credit system, from which Tesla notoriously derives a large portion of their profit. But a week later, on the 12th of November, the stock again turned south. It would appear that Tesla investors have long-term memory issues. The We Robot presentation was a threefer. Musk finally unveiled the autonomous robotaxi and a 20-person Robovan, and he had some free-roaming Optimus robots make an appearance as well. As we do, we'll go through the presentation and pause after Musk wraps up a particular point to break it down. But as Musk is speaking, pay attention to how the crowd reacts, because he was definitely not getting the enthusiastic response he would normally expect, except for about 5 guys in front who were really happy to be there. After an hour of waiting for the event to start, watching a digital kaleidoscope on YouTube, in the meantime, we were treated to the legal disclaimer for the event to kick off the festivities.
Statements made in this presentation are forward-looking statements that are subject to risks and uncertainties. Actual results may differ materially from those projected. More details can be found in the written materials.
This disclaimer, as it turns out, is now one of the most important aspects of any Musk presentation. See, a ruling came down a week prior to the event in a class action against Musk and Tesla that Musk somehow won. And the reason why he won it was because his legal team was able to convince a San Francisco judge that Tesla investors had to be goddamned idiots to believe anything Musk told them about FSD. Well, the official wording was no reasonable investor would rely on such information, but potato. The overview of the statements that Musk made was that they were agreed by the court to be corporate puffery, the intentional exaggeration or boasting in advertising to promote a particular product. And you're about to hear more of the same during Musk's 19-minute monologue. Well, more accurately, you're going to hear more of the same old, because much of what Musk is about to tell his 10/10 attendees has been heard before during earning calls. Let's see how, after 2 extra months of preparation, Musk finally unveiled his Cybercab. After the introduction of the event by Franz von Holzhausen, Musk emerges from a movie set hotel lobby on the Warner Brothers lot and is greeted by someone wearing a SpaceX spacesuit, one that didn't allow the person wearing it to turn their neck. We'll save that topic for another time during a SpaceX episode, but there are some major shortcomings in that suit. A Cybercab pulls up to the curb to pick up Musk, a small 2-seater coupe with Cybertruck styling, as we suggested it might be when Musk accidentally leaked the name of the vehicle in the Q2 call, although there's no indication that Cybercab shares the stainless steel skin of Tesla's El Camino. With no cue from Musk whatsoever, both doors on this rig open up, flaring out and up like wings in a styling that looked to be crossbred between previously existing butterfly and scissor doors. The fact that these doors opened without instruction would already indicate a level of remote control being exercised over the vehicle. Musk allows the car to drive him across the closed 20-acre set from the hotel to the stage to tell us about the car that his followers and investors have been waiting on since Autonomy Day 2019, when Musk first mentioned the robotaxi and its ability to make their owners on the order of $30,000 per year. Let's see what Musk actually delivered. First impressions, this is a totally stripped out two-seater, devoid of anything in the cab other than the two seats, two cup holders, and a touchscreen user interface. No mirrors, no manual controls of any sort, including no steering wheel or pedals. So if you have to manually move this vehicle for any reason, say to park it in a parkade, or inch it forward into your garage, or load it up on a flatbed when it breaks down, you would be out of luck. What's worse, of course, is the inability to take control of the car in an emergency situation.
You are experiencing a car accident.
The hell I am!
The outside of the car is unremarkable, relying on the Cybertruck angles connection to engage any familiarity with the vehicle. Unremarkable and, quite frankly, not unique, looking like several previously seen concept cars built for real and for the screen. In fact, the director from iRobot, one Alex Proyas, was pretty pissed off about the similarities between not only this vehicle, but other creations he had built for his movie, and he went so far as to ask Musk directly on Twitter if he could please get his designs back. Honestly, Alex Proyas' on-screen props were far better fleshed out for fit and finish than Musk's comparative offering. For example, the smooth hubcap disc looks like it could possibly be made of paper mache, with the color of it matching the paint on the regular tires to make the remaining black rubber look low profile. As mentioned before, the interior is beyond basic, and it would be interesting to see what would happen to that easy to rip off control surface if an airbag deployed from the dash. A grand total of 2 bucket seats, so forget about using this with your family, and the chairs do not appear to be conducive to the fitting of an infant car seat. The doors would be total hazards to other vehicles and cyclists upon entry to and exit from the vehicle. The way they flare out, instead of folding up like a Model X Gullwing, would make the vehicle impossible to access from a typical parking space. And finally, the doors have no visible handles, inside or out. Considering Tesla's growing number of entrapments when their vehicles lose power and/or catch fire, that will need to be addressed. In the event of an accident, not only are the occupants unable to get out of the car, but first responders have no way to access into the vehicle. And even if they smash out a window, they still don't have a handle to open the door with. So they'll be dragging you out through the broken window.
Through the window,
Yeah.
because everything stopped.
Yeah.
The power didn't work, the door didn't open, the windows didn't go down.
Now, we'd like to tell you what Musk had to say about this Tesla version of a Volkswagen XL1, a vehicle that was released in a limited production run 10 years ago as a diesel-electric hybrid. Except, we can't show you what Musk said about Cybercab. Musk didn't actually go into any details about the unit at all. No mention of, for example, space-age materials or production lines as with Cybertruck, or acceleration times as he has done with every other vehicle he's ever introduced, real or imaginary. No range estimate, no mention of which batteries they use, not even a mention on whether or not this is the next-gen platform that people have been waiting to see, because that might mean that their 6-figure deposits on their Roadster 2 might finally result in the delivery of a vehicle that they paid for in full 7 years ago. No, instead, Musk talks about sci-fi movies, where he gets all his visionary ideas from, teasing a dystopian future, saying that we don't want to suffer the fate of the planet as portrayed in Blade Runner.
You see a lot of sci-fi movies where the future is dark and dismal, where it's not a future you want to be in. So, like, I love Blade Runner, but I don't know if we want that future. I think we want that duster he's wearing, but not the bleak apocalypse.
The producers of Blade Runner didn't think too highly about that. They're suing him for the AI art used in the presentation that was obviously plagiarized. Musk now goes into a long-winded compilation of sound bites that you've heard before, but let's hear how he strings them together this time.
So we'll move from supervised full self-driving to unsupervised full self-driving, where the car, you could fall asleep and wake up at your destination. But there's also a challenge for a lot of people that cars cost too much. I mean, when you factor in everything that goes into a car, and the car insurance, and the car payments, and the storage of the car, it's very expensive. And you say, like, how many hours a week are cars used? Your average passenger car is only used about 10 hours a week out of 168 hours. So the vast majority of the time, cars are just doing nothing. But if they're autonomous, they could be used, 5 times more, maybe 10 times more. So you could actually, for the same car, would have 5 times as much value, maybe 10 times as much value.
Musk going on at length about the cost of a car is laughable, especially when he's using made-up parameters. His cars are just as expensive as better models with more features made by other automakers. The $30,000 price tag Musk is hoping to charge for Cybercab would be similar to a Honda Civic with a mid-range trim. A better car that seats 5 people with far better amenities. The mention of the cost of insurance is also snicker-worthy because if people are planning to buy these cabs with the intent of inserting them into the Tesla Robotaxi app for public use, well, neither Musk nor anyone else at Tesla has ever come forward with what insurance on such an arrangement would look like, where liability would fall, or which underwriters would even look at it. For anyone about to jump in and say that Waymo is already on the road and they're insured, well, here's the difference. It's Waymo hardware and Waymo software operating a vehicle that Waymo owns. With the Cybercab paradigm, it's Tesla software and hardware that does not include LiDAR autonomously operating a vehicle on loan to them, owned by somebody else privately, and that is uncharted territory. At this point, Musk launches into a series of statements that he's used many times before at unveils and on earning calls. See how many of these puffery platitudes you can recognize from previous episodes.
With autonomy, you get your time back. This is a very big deal. It'll save lives, like a lot of lives, and prevent injuries. I think we'll see autonomous cars become 10 times safer than a human. If you think of times past where there used to be an elevator operator. Once in a while they get tired and they accidentally shear somebody in half. Now we have automated elevators. You just get in an elevator and you press a button and you don't even think about it. And it just takes you to the floor. And if you did see an elevator operator with a big relay switch, you'd be like, that's weird. That's how cars will be. And it's not just the lives saved in injuries, but if you think about the cumulative time that people spend in a car and the time that they will get back that they can now spend on their phones or watching a movie or doing work or whatever you want to do. You can think of the car in an autonomous world as being like just a little lounge. You're just sitting in a comfortable little lounge and you can do whatever you want while you're in this comfortable little lounge. And when you get out, you will be at your destination. So, yeah, it's going to be awesome.
The claims Musk is making here about unsupervised full self-driving are the exact same claims he was just sued for. And his defense in court was literally that investors have to be idiots to believe a word of it. He did not try to argue in court that Tesla was on the brink of a breakthrough that would catapult their technology from a level 2 ADAS to a level 5 autonomous system. No, he and his lawyers argued in sworn filings that his statements about FSD are all so far-fetched that nobody should believe any of it to be true. And then he brings up the drunk or tired elevator attendant shearing people in half again, as he has done many times before. Musk has actually been using elevators as a safety comparison to justify his autonomous cars since at least 2016, and almost 9 years later, they are still not autonomous. And the ironic part of that story is that we can't locate a single instance where a manned elevator sheared someone in half, but we can find the occasional instance of where a person was killed in an automated elevator. And finally, it would appear that Musk's end goal for autonomous cars distills down to little more than being able to spend more time on your phone.
I think the cost of autonomous transport will be so low that you can think of it like individualized mass transit. The average cost of a bus per mile for a city not the ticket price, because that is subsidized, but the average price is about $1 a mile. Whereas the cost of Cybercab, we think probably over time, from the operating cost is probably going to be around 20 cents a mile. And price, including taxes and everything else, probably ends up being 30 or 40 cents a mile. So yes, and you will be able to buy one.
Musk goes on to say that these cars would be so cheap to operate that they could be considered personalized mass transit, a typical Musk word salad of nothingness. He says the cost of operating a mass transit bus runs about $1 per mile, and that the Cybercab has the potential of dropping that to 30 to 40 cents per mile once insurance is factored in. As there are no insurers named as being on board with this, he's obviously pulling numbers out of his ass, but we can work with them anyway. Let's say you're a Cybercab owner, and the vehicle is going to be used by other people 80% of the time. Going with Musk's statement that the car could be used 5 to 10 times as often across the 168 hours in a week, keeping in mind that the basic vehicle limited warranty on a Model 3 is 4 years or 50,000 miles. Musk uses the $1 per mile for mass transit as the comparison, so we'll keep with that as the fair rate for someone using a Cybercab through the Tesla app. Musk has already said before that through that app, the company will charge a commission for the fares, so we'll put that at 20%. The owner of the vehicle pockets 80 cents on the dollar, gross, of which Musk says 30 to 40 cents goes to the cost of operating and ownership. We'll meet in the middle and call it 35 cents. So in that scenario, the owner is profiting 45 cents on the dollar gross, but now that's a declarable income. Knock off at least 20%, knocking the 45 cents down to 35 cents on the dollar. We're assuming, because these costs would be an unknown, that the cost of energy to recharge the vehicle, along with any cleaning fees between fares, are not included in the cost of ownership. But to be conservative, those values are going to be ignored anyway. Under these conditions, if these numbers are anywhere near accurate, the owner of the Cybercab would have to allow other drivers to use the vehicle for 85,715 miles for the vehicle to pay for itself. But by that time, the basic vehicle warranty on the car will be long expired, and most of the battery and drive unit warranty will have been used up as well, if the Cybercab warranty is similar to the Model 3. And that's if the owner of the car never used it at all. Back in 2019, Musk promised these vehicles would pay for themselves every year when he said the expected income for a $30,000 robotaxi would be on the order of $30,000 per year. If the above scenario was compressed into a single year to make the kind of money that Musk promised, the car would need to put on 235 miles per day, 7 days per week. These are the numbers using the 5 times more often scenario that Musk stated. The numbers double or halve, respectively, if you move to the 10 times more often used example that Musk casually mentioned. In that case, you would pay the car off in half the time, but your powertrain and battery warranty would be burned out in 8 months, with the car putting on almost 500 miles per day.
Something we're also doing is, and it's really high time we did this, is inductive charging. So the robotaxi has no plug. It just goes over the inductive charger and charges. So yeah, it's kind of how it should be.
A couple of things we noticed here, you probably did too, that while Musk was talking about inductive charging, he's actually showing an automated system cleaning the vehicle, supposedly between fares. He didn't actually show the induction plate during this segment. But the laughable part about this demo video is that it shows a purpose-built robot cleaning out the car, at the very same unveiling event where later on he's going to be promoting the Optimus humanoid. It's almost as if a robot built to purpose would be more beneficial to the owner, in this case, than a one-size-fits-all biped. Of course, there was no further mention of the cleaning station, whether or not you need to buy one, or if they'd be set up at Tesla charging stations or service centers. No details at all. Just another nice CGI, like the autonomous charging snake from back in the day that never made it to market. After watching the video several times, it turns out the induction plate video wasn't part of the full-length presentation anywhere in the video posted on YouTube by Tesla. But the inductive charging CGI was shown on the Tesla Twitter account, where the vehicle pulls in over a floor-mounted induction plate to recharge. And here are the problems that we foresee with that system. First would be the loss of efficiency compared to a plugged-in recharging cable, which should be at about 95% efficiency, where typical inductive efficiency sits at 70 to 80%. Tesla claims to have a 90% efficiency on their system, but they also told you 3 years ago that they could liberate lithium from clay using seawater. So until a third party with no vested interest nor shares in the company can verify that claim, we are going to assume that that is corporate puffery. And of course, efficiency in an induction system relies heavily upon the alignment of the respective devices to each other. Second would be the issue of heat. Inductive charging creates heat in the receiving battery. Certainly, there are ways to mitigate heat, but it only takes one cell to fail in a Tesla battery pack to create a thermal runaway ignition. Third is infrastructure. To date, all Tesla charging stations have been equipped with plug-in charging systems, and Tesla has been given billions by the federal government to roll out that network. So would this new technology replace existing charging spots for these very specific vehicles, or would it require another rollout of another network and therefore another set of government grants? Keeping in mind that Musk fired most of the supercharger network team many moons ago. Fourth is the most direct-to-consumer question. If the machine has no plug, how are you supposed to recharge it in the event of a shortfall of power while you're on the road? Presently, on a Model 3, someone can help you out with a diesel generator, or someone with a Ford F-150 Lightning could recharge you off of their system. What would a rescue scenario with an inductive charged robotaxi look like? Just seems that having a plug as an option would make a lot more sense. Finally, last thought is on this screen, where a battery with 35% charge is going to take an hour to top up. Power transfer in the lower right is 25 kilowatts, and at that rate, it will take almost an hour to finish charging. 3 halves of 25 is 37.5 kilowatt hours as a battery estimate, which is half that of a Model Y, and a Model Y has an EPA range of 244 to 326 miles on a single charge. All of this had to be calculated and cross-referenced because Musk mentioned nothing about the battery pack size, or what type of batteries are used, or what the range expectation of the car would be using a kilowatt per 100 miles figure. None of it was discussed. But one thing's for sure, the 1 hour charging time will be off-putting for anyone needing to travel further than whatever range this economy box is capable of doing. That will diminish over time. And if the car is on the road 5 to 10 times more than normal, as Musk declared, you're probably looking at 2 charging cycles on the battery per day. Now we're on to the concept art of what it would be like to live in a world where we can regrow our green spaces by simply removing all of our parking lots.
One of the things that is really interesting is how will this affect the cities that we live in? And when you drive around a city, or when the car drives you around a city, you'll see there's a lot of parking lots. There's parking lots everywhere. Parking garages. So what would happen if you have an autonomous world is that you can now turn parking lots into parks. And we're taking the ing lot out of parking lot.
After years of listening to Musk ramble on about things, it gets pretty easy to see where he's got an idea about something, but then he can't resolve the end game to that idea. It's like when he was promoting how to get cars from one end of the city to the other with underground tunnels, with no thought as to the logistics of such a concept. Case in point, in this system of tunnels, which looks to be simply a hollow earth, there was no thought whatsoever put into the need for a motorist to move between tunnels to wind up at different destinations from different start points. Another example, the skate in the original concept would have been a severely limiting factor, since you couldn't descend into one of the tunnels without one. Simple things like that had no thought put to them. Here, Musk seems to think that these 2-seat pods are going to cure the problem of parking lots, but he won't actually be taking any cars off the road, quite the opposite, as most cars can carry 4 or more passengers. And every one of these things is going to have to be recharged at least once per day. So where are all those charging stations going to sit? Where is the power coming from? And what infrastructure upgrades are going to be required to facilitate that transition? Turning our attention now to the next product that Musk introduced. Let's hear from him first, but pay attention to the response from the crowd as he's talking.
What happens if you need a vehicle that is bigger than a Model Y? The Robovan. The Robovan is we're going to make this, and it's going to look like that. Now, can you imagine going down the streets and you see this coming towards you? That'd be sick. So this can carry up to 20 people, and it can also transport goods. So you can configure it for goods transport within a city, or transport of up to 20 people at a time. So this is gonna, the Robovan is what's gonna solve for high density. So if you want to take a sports team somewhere, or you're looking to really get the cost of travel down to, I don't know, 5-10 cents a mile, then you can use the Robovan. The future should look like the future.
Starting with the last point first, and going back to the tweet from the director of iRobot, Musk's future that should look like the future instead looks an awful lot like turn-of-the-century sci-fi movies. And the only spec Musk really gave us about Robovan, or Robovan, is that the vehicle is capable of moving 20 people at a time. Just, obviously, not if all of them want to have a seat, as there are only 14 seats, not 20, and no apparent accommodation for anybody in a wheelchair. To get to 20 people, you need to have 6 able-bodied adults standing in the middle with absolutely nothing for them to hold on to. No hand strap from the ceiling, no poles, no handrail either. And once that middle fills up, the tiny little entertainment screens at either end become totally pointless. Even in a best case scenario, those screens are positioned in the worst possible place for the people facing them to read or watch them. Musk also claimed this vehicle will solve for high density areas and somehow cut the cost per mile down to mere pennies, without providing any receipts or numbers to back up such a claim. But to be that economical, this machine would have to be as efficient as possible when moving people about. Let's see how much of a transportation revolution the Robovan actually is. Let's try to get some dimensions on it, because not even those numbers were presented in any way, shape, or form during the video or online afterwards either. Best we can do with nothing to go on is estimate the width by using the type and number of chairs as a reference. We've got a bench of 4 seats across the back and front of the interior, either end. The 3 high-backed stools in front of the row of 4 leave a similar width space to access the back row. A quick side note here, if anyone has ever seen a road vehicle seat with a single attachment point like this before, be sure to mention where in the comments. So, 4 seats across, and they look to be a decent size. What to use as a comparable? Well, a full-size Dodge Ram pickup truck is about 82 inches wide, a little over 2 meters, and that is shoulder to shoulder for 3 adults in the back seat. So we'll plug that measurement in for 3 of the 4, and if we take 4/3 of that number, that brings us to about 110 inches or 2.8 meters across the bench. That accounts for the width of the seats, but if you'll notice here, on both sides of the rig, there's at least another foot of shelf between the seat and the outer window. That being the case, the vehicle width adds 24 inches for a total of 134 inches wide, or about 3.4 meters, which is wider than the 10-foot wide lanes typically found now in urban areas. That dimension is even wider than the bus lane indicated here, even though the vehicle only holds 14 people comfortably. This would make the unit more suitable as a small capacity shuttle for venues with a closed road system, such as an airport or a large convention center, which got us thinking. Musk already sold a customer on a vehicle very similar to this rig when he submitted the proposal to Las Vegas for the loop installed underneath their convention center. Maybe, after all these years, he finally intends to make good on the autonomous shuttles he sold them on in the spring of 2019. Let's see if that would work. Here's a dead-on shot of a Vegas loop exit into the main underground station. You can see the Model 3 coming at you has enough room, but how wide is that tunnel? According to online information, the borehole of the tunnel was 14 feet wide, with an interior usable diameter of 12 feet. Comparing that diameter to the footprint of the roadway, that translates to a paved surface of only 8.5 feet, or 2.6 meters. Roughly enough width for just the Robovan gamer chairs by themselves. Even though we think Robovan is wider than this, if we assign the vehicle width to be only 8.5 feet across the front, this is how it would present itself at the entrance to the Vegas Loop tunnel. And even at the 8.5 foot footprint, there is not enough headroom in the tunnel, with the front profile presenting as nearly square, similarly tall as it is wide. So there's no way in hell a rig this size is going to pull that off. not even on a straight stretch, where it doesn't have to go around corners and require extra leeway to prevent it from getting jammed up. Say on a corner like this, just before entering the Vegas loop. So Robovan is too wide for modern roadways, and can't be used in the Vegas loop, pretty much making the vehicle little more than a minor spectacle. And if this vehicle is too wide at only 4 seats across, the shuttle concept from 2019 never had a chance of doing the job of running people through the neon sewers of Vegas. Here are some final notes on what we saw with the Robovan. The Art Deco styling of this vehicle, an architectural and decorating theme from the 1920s, is flashy, but it wouldn't hold up well over the years. The custom glass alone would be a pain to clean and a huge expense to replace. The interior disco trim lights try to add an element of cool to it, but Tesla using that trick to add excitement to a nothing burger is getting a little old. The seat configuration of 7 people at each end, looking at the display behind the 7 people facing them, would be an awkward as hell social situation. Nobody would know if the person across from you was looking at you or at the TV behind you. From a safety standpoint, the location of the entrance door should preclude it from ever running on a city street, for this reason. If another vehicle T-bones this rig, the other car would come straight through the center of this short bus and wipe out everyone sitting in the middle, with no frame whatsoever to absorb an impact or redirect the energy. With Robovan having the ground clearance of a garter snake, even a typical, smaller SUV would likely have enough height to run straight through Robovan unimpeded. Seriously, what are they thinking with the ground clearance on this thing? It's never getting over a speed bump and never surviving a pothole. Either one would rip the shit out of the undercarriage, which we're guessing is where the battery is located. While we're on the topic of doors, which as a Tesla tend not to open anymore after the vehicle loses power, there is no indicated override button to open the main door in the event of a fire. There doesn't seem to be an emergency exit or any signage at all. No identified override switch to shut down a malfunctioning unit. And of course, no steering wheel or pedals in case of a runaway scenario. Speaking of wheels, how many are there? Where are they? How do you get to them? And how much of the exterior do you have to disassemble to change a flat tire? Mass transit vehicles need to be simple, efficient, and effective. Robovan appears to be none of the above. So let's have a comparison before moving on to the final product of the night. This is a Toyota Coaster tour bus, popular among tour operators outside of the US and Canada. This bus holds more than double the passenger count compared to the Robovan that was shown on 1010. For the final dimension of Robovan, the length, we'll compare it to the width of the vehicle as a ratio, and this overhead shot gave us the best bird's eye view of the night. Ratio of length to width in the Robovan appears to be 2.8 to 1. So if the Robovan is about 9.5 feet wide, it would be around 26.5 feet long. That is consistent with the scale shown here, if the lady at the counter is taller than 5.5 feet. And if the pink Toyota Coaster wireframe at 23 feet long is overlaid atop the Robovan, it would come up 3.5 feet shorter and more than 2 feet thinner than Robovan, while carrying more than twice the head count. A vehicle that's available in a 6-cylinder petrol or 4-cylinder diesel, new for under $100,000. If Musk was really serious about getting into electrified mass transit, all he had to do was come up with something like this run on electricity. Something that has, of course, already been done in 1881. So with Robovan we have a generally unusable, potentially dangerous, definitely plagiarized, inefficient minibus presented to the Tesla shareholders with no mention of price, batteries, range, build platform, production facility, or expected delivery date. And the only stat that Musk did give us, the seating capacity, was wrong. As for the claim of Robovan being far more efficient as a means of mass transit, capable of taking the cost per mile down to 5 to 10 cents, considering there are already electric buses operating around the world with greater capacity, we will consider that claim to be more of that corporate puffery he's so famous for. Final word on this vehicle. Do you know why Musk is butchering the pronunciation of Robovan, calling it the Robovan?
The Robovan. The Robovan is, we're going to make this, and it's going to look like that.
Might have something to do with the fact that Robovan is a registered trademark of a small robotics company called get this, Starship Technologies, who also own the Starship trademark. These trademarks were filed in 2015 and 2017 respectively, back when Musk was still introducing his very large rocket as the ITS, the Interplanetary Transport System. That startup company received both of those trademarks in 2019. Oh, and you know what other name Musk uses where he's facing a trademark violation? That new name he came up with for Twitter, revolving around his childhood fantasy of dominating the letter X. X, as a trademark, was registered by someone else before him. So cue another legal battle against a small legal marketing company called X Social Media LLC. Something else that Musk did upon taking over Twitter was help himself to another person's private Twitter handle, relieving photographer Gene X Huang of his personal @X handle without notice or compensation. Huang had registered that handle back in 2007 and accumulated 53,000 followers. But Musk wanted it, so to hell with him. We're going to split the episode in half here for two reasons. One, you're going to want to refresh your drinks and snacks. And two, so we can post the episode on our Patreon page, where our uploads have a maximum time limit. When we come back, we're going to pick up the presentation from the point where Musk is introducing the Optimus robots to the crowd. Click here for the second half of our We Robot breakdown, already uploaded and ready to go.